Yo, what's up? It's your boy, I Know Mercy, the Mad Hatter. Here today with something a little bit different than what I usually do. It's not really a reaction. It's kind of it's a review basically, but it's more of an impromptu thing, something I'm just kind of doing off the top of my head. And I'm not just going to be talking about one thing. I'm actually going to be talking about three things. Um, I'm not sure if I'm going to do this again anytime soon, or if it's just is going to be this one thing, but. No, I just kind of had the urge to talk about this today. So, all right, I just saw today the first two episodes of Digimon Try, and damn, I love Digimon. Like I've been watching Digimon. Well, I can't even really say I've been watching Digimon since it first came on, because. After season 4, I stopped watching it. Not exactly because I lost interest in it or anything like that. Far from it. I was still really deep into Digimon when Frontier ended. The problem is I couldn't watch it anymore because I had been watching it on ABC Family's Jetix, and Jetix stopped showing on ABC Family, and the fifth season, I think it was either Sabers or Data Squad, something like that. I'm not sure which it was called in America and which it was called in Japan, but I never saw the fifth season. I saw a bit of the sixth season, like at least I think Fusion was the sixth season. But like I said, I only saw a bit of it, and I honestly didn't like it. Like, there wasn't really anything bad, particularly bad about it. I actually did like the setup of Fusion. I thought the setup was really great. I didn't honestly like the fact that it didn't have traditional Digivolutions anymore, but when I first heard about Try, I was naturally excited. I think anyone who's been with Digimon since the beginning would just be naturally excited about adventure beginning after 02, and seeing these characters that we saw grow and develop over the first two seasons, coming back and developing even more into more complex characters. And the first two episodes were great. They were fantastic. They actually start out nice and slow. Like, I actually kind of like the fact that the first episode starts off really slow. It actually kind of reminds me of. All right, so before I get into Try to any real degree, we have to acknowledge the fact that adventure was. I think a lot of us have sort of rose tinted glasses when it comes to adventure. Adventure was good for a kid show. Uh, like, I don't think they really tried as hard as they could have when it came to 02. At least for the first, I want to say about 13 to 26 episodes. Up until the Myotis Monarch is when Digimon really started to become something special. Up until then, it was your basic monster of the week, sort of fantasy story. The kids. Like, the first episode it sets everything up. It shows you what the basic status quo of the series is gonna be. The basic setup of the series, 7 kids get transported to this other dimension. They each get this little monster thing that they help grow, that protect them, and then they fight monsters. And that's basically how the first 13 episodes progressed. The first 13 episodes of Digimon were supposed to be the entire series, which I personally think is really great. It is a good series, and I can't understand why after they hit the 13th, before actually they hit the 13th episode mark, they decided to expand the story into making it a. I actually don't know how long. I don't really remember how many episodes Adventure had. I think it was 52, something around there. And I can understand why they had that, because the characters were really good, the lore was interesting, and the fights were okay. Adventure had Digimon always had kind of a dirt poor budget, like even for TV anime. It really didn't have that great of a budget. It had to reuse animations a lot. It had to cut a bunch of corners, and it looked okay, but you can tell it was made on the cheap, and it was actually made even. I'm not gonna say worse, because I think it's a matter of opinion, but the American dub by Saban is probably one of the worst dubbing companies in the business, or was one of the worst dubbing companies in the business, especially for kids anime. I think 4Kids has kind of taken that mantle off of them since I think Saban went defunct a while ago, but then came back a few years ago. But I think then 02 was good for the first 13 episodes, and then just kind of gradually became shit as it went on. Tamers was fucking amazing, and that's only because the showrunner was Chiaki J. Konaka, otherwise known as the dude who wrote Serial Experiments Lane. And if you've ever wondered why that particular season is so fucking dark, that's why. Frontier was good. If Frontier was kind of a return to the standard fantasy story. A bunch of kids get trapped in another dimension and they have to save it from a big evil thing. It did have the interesting plot element that the kids become the Digimon themselves instead of having a Digimon partner that fights for them. Like I said, I never saw Sabers or Data Squad or Fusion. But that's my basic opinion of the entire Digimon franchise up until now. And now we have Tri and Adventure Tri, actually. And everything I said about Digimon having a dirt poor budget, it's always had not the greatest budget in the world. I think after 02, it was enough of a moneymaker that Toei decided to give it a bit more of a budget, and Tamers and Frontier did look really good, but you could still tell there was that sort of cheapness in it. They still reused animations a lot, and like it looked good. It looked better, but not like really particularly great. Adventure Tri is fucking gorgeous, man. It's like the character design, for one. Digimon has always had this particular character design, and this looks completely different. It's so different from the other seasons, and it looks so good. Like you can still tell that each character is who they are, except for Mimi, kind of, but you can tell each character who they are just by looking at them, but it looks so good, and the animation is so fluid, and the fight scenes and the direction and everything about it, it's just so damn good. But like I said, it starts off slow, and I like that. I actually I think it was kind of worrying, especially for Saban, that Tamers started off really slow. Not a lot happened in the first. I'm gonna say about nothing really happened in the first two episodes. It was the first episode was establishing the world and showing that it was different from the previous two seasons, and establishing the main hero Takato and his sort of obsession with Digimon, which in this continuity is a card game and a TV series, just like it is in ours. And him creating his own Digimon, Guilmon, and eventually bringing Guilmon into the real world. And the second episode was the fallout of that, him having to deal with the fact of, I have this superpowered dinosaur that is completely loyal to me. I have no idea what the fuck I'm doing right now. And after episode 3, it did pick up and did start moving along, but it still had this really slow build to it. And even as a kid, I was a little bit disappointed by the fact that they weren't fighting Digimon. Like after the first episode, there was a fight between Rika Renamon and a Lynxmon, a giant fire kitty. But it was that wasn't the big thing. It was more about setup and world building and establishing Takato as his own character, and I think that's why a lot of people consider Tamers to be the best season of Digimon, even now. I think because Konaka is a really slow writer. Like Serial Experiments Lane is one of the best anime I've ever seen. It was just so fucking brilliant, and everything about it was great. Konaka worked on a few other anime, but I haven't seen them yet. I'm ashamed to say. I think one is called Ghost Town, but I'm not sure. And Frontier kind of did the same thing as Tamers, in that it was a slow build, except it still did have the hero Takuya getting his ability to change into a Digimon in the first episode and then have a big fight at the end of it. So the build wasn't as slow as it is in Tamers, or even here. Like in Tamers, there isn't a big fight during the first episode. The first episode, like I said, it's a slow build, but it's a good build. Tai, Takato, Takuya, Tai, but Tai is, I'm going to say a senior in high school at this point. He is definitely significantly, he is a little bit old, at least a little bit older than he was in 02, at least. So I'm not entirely sure when or how old the kids are in this, but they are older than they were when we last saw them, and they have matured, and it does show that. But the first episode, we mostly just follow Tai around on his day. He has a soccer game. He's still playing soccer, obviously, and he has a game that coming Sunday, and he's just kind of trying to get his friends together and have them cheer him on like they used to. And I do like the fact that they kind of address sort of a big thing that I think a lot of kids, as they get older, when they start getting a little bit older, they realize that their friends aren't going to be around forever. They're all eventually going to move away or develop their own thing. You're going to start drifting apart, and it's sad, but it's also a part of life. And another, I think a really good thing is the fact that they bring up the fact that Tai doesn't know what he wants to do with his life yet, and that does make sense, because he's at the youngest 17. I don't think he's 16. I think at youngest he is 16 or 17, but I'm leaning more towards 17. so he really doesn't know what he wants to do yet, but he really doesn't know what he wants to do yet, but he 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 knows he wants to stay with his friends, and I think a lot of kids like Ty are kind of have that issue. Not exactly popular, but with a really tight knit group of friends, and when high school is starting to end, you realize that, oh my god, all of my best friends are all going to be going off to different places, and I think Joe is already either in college or he's about to go to college, and in 02 established that Mimi moved to America, and so like I think he's already lost at least two of his closest friends, and the girl he really liked, he's dating his best friend now, and like that's gotta hurt like hell. They're like one of the first scenes that you do see is Matt inviting Sora, and I'm going to be for the record, I'm going to be calling them by their American names. Okay, just that's what I've known them. That's what I've known them as. That's what I know them. I honestly can't remember all their Japanese names, so I'm just going to call them by their American names. All right. If anyone has a problem with that, fuck you. He overhears Matt and Sora talking, and I think they're still dating at this point. And Matt is inviting her to his concert, and Matt and Ty kind of tries to get away from them before either of them really notices, but he doesn't, and but he ends up getting intercepted by a teacher, and like I said, all the stuff about him not knowing what to do, that's where that all comes in. But it's clear that they are all still friends. Like, they're still really damn close, because even though Matt is dating, I don't know if Ty and Sora ever officially dated, but it's clear that there is some sort of attraction between them, and Ty is still into Sora, and I do think it's kind of, it does speak about Ty's character that he's still willing to be friends with Matt, even though he is dating Sora, and they do establish that Matt has an odd relationship with his band. He mentioned that he was part of a band called Teenage Werewolf or something like that, but they split up, and then he had a new band called what was it called? One Knife Day or some shit like that. It's this sort of really stupid, pretentious shit that teenagers think is cool, but like when they look back on it as adults, they realize this is really fucking stupid. I think we all have moments like that, and like I said, the entire episode is him just sort of reconnecting, is him sort of going to each one of his friends and seeing if they can come see him play soccer. None of them can, and I think that's when he realizes that, my God, all my friends are going to leave me one day. It's not malicious or anything like that. Like, they don't mean to. It's just they have lives, and we're eventually gonna drift apart. Like I said, it's something that I think we all kind of realize at some point or another, that people who we see every day and consider to be our best friends are going to eventually drift apart from us. It's just how, like I said, it's just how life works, and I think it also does kind of play into the fact that it's probably been several years since he's last seen Agumon or the other Digimon. So not only are his human friends sort of drifting apart from him, he is becoming more aware of the fact that his sort of, I don't want to say soulmate, but I think that's kind of that's always been sort of how Digimon have been portrayed in this series. They're the other half of the Digidestined or the Tamer or whatever. They are this thing that always watches over them and always protects them, and the Digimon, especially in this series and in Tamers in Guilmont's case, were created specifically to protect these kids. So there's this really deep intrinsic bond between them, and the fact that I think Tai and the other Digidestined have been separated from them for several years now, probably, I think is kind of hitting Tai especially hard with the whole, growing up thing. Um, One thing I did notice, which was kind of horrifying, is well, okay, when it begins, I think is really odd, and I think it's sort of like, I'm not sure what it's pointing to yet, but it talks about the demiurge, which is a part of the Gnostic religious sect. I haven't actually done much research in the demiurge, but I do know it's from Gnosticism. It talks about the demiurge creating all life, which is actually part of Gnosticism. The demiurge it created the mortal world, and the mortal world is considered sinful by nature, and Gnostics are basically hermits. They try to detach themselves from the material world as much as possible, and I'm sure that's going to come into this in some way. Like, Digimon has always had its ties to different mythologies and philosophies and stuff like that, and especially in its Digimon designs. There is an entire race of Digimon that are either angels or demons, and the angels and demons are basically just flip sides of each other. Angemon is Devimon is a fallen Angemon. Daemon is a fallen Seraphimon. Lilithmon is a fallen Ophanimon, stuff like that. And so I'm sure somehow, some way, the whole Gnosticism demiurge thing is going to play into this. It is too early to really tell what that is actually going to how this is going to factor into this. It's so far there's only premiered like 4 episodes, so I'm not entirely sure how long Try's gonna be. Considering the massive artistic upgrade it has, I doubt it'll have the standard 52 episodes. I think Fusion stopped at 30, but even then, I don't think it'll get to that point. It'll either go up to 13 or 24. Those are the usual standard anime lifespans. So that's what I'm sort of banking on for Try. And one thing that fucking horrified me is, I think Davis, Yoli, Cody, and Ken from 02 are fucking dead. Like when Ty was waking up, it kept flashing to 4 figures, one after another, being like struck down by something, and the D terminal, I think it was called, or D power, one of them, the second generation Digivice falling. And like if you have seen 02, then you know it has to be Davis, Yoli, Cody, and Ken. So I think they're fucking dead now, and like that's astonishing, because they've addressed it to a certain, okay. Adventure and Adventure 02 recognize death. Like, they have characters have loved ones who died, or Kari had a life-threatening illness in the first season. So death is a thing, but they've never really dealt with it, and they're kind of doing that now because at the beginning of the series, at the beginning of episode 1, like after the intro and we kind of established what Ty's going through, it cuts to Kawagamon somehow materializing in the real world and just starts flying around and fucking with technology all over the city. And the episode ends with Tai finding the Kawagamon and sort of staring it down. And I think it's the same Kawagamon they fought in the first episode of the original series, which they didn't kill that thing, so it probably still remembers them. Like, it remembers Tai, and like, that's a little bastard that set me on fire, and like he swoops down and tries to straight up fucking murder Tai. And Agumon's not there, so he really can't do anything except run. But during the initial and this is in episode 2, during the initial chase and the initial confrontation with Kawagamon, Tai sort of starts looking around, and I think it's clear that people are fucking dying because of Kawagamon's attack. Like entire buildings are being destroyed, and and people's personal stuff is being scattered around. Like, they never show bodies. But maybe this is just me wanting this to be deeper or like more traumatic or something like that for Tai. But I think it's the way the camera pans on certain objects and the way it focuses on Tai's face. It's Tai thinking to himself, "My God, people are dying because of this." Like, they never really dealt with that in the previous seasons. Like, even in Tamers, where the Digimon do come into the real world frequently. Like, that's where most of the series takes place. They never really deal with the idea of people actually dying because of a Digimon attack, and especially in Adventure, the first Adventure series. When they went into the real world and Digimon followed them, and they were having these huge battles in the middle of Tokyo streets, they never really dealt with the idea of people actually dying because of the collateral damage. But I think they actually are now. And I think that is going to be interesting because you can kind of see Tai being slightly scarred by it, by the notion that people are actually dying because of this, and he has to do something, but he's not really sure what. And Tai has always been sort of the leader. He has been the protector and everything like that. And I think with everything that's been going on with him, and realizing that his friends aren't always going to be around, and just the weight of growing up and the responsibilities he's always going to have, it is affecting him in a really real, tangible way. And I honestly can't wait to see how it all plays out, because Agumon does eventually show up. You know, he shows up right when Kawagamon's about to kill him, right when Kawagamon's about to kill Tai, and you know, he Digivolves the Greymon, but then they kind of realize that this Kawagamon, it is the same Kawagamon that they fought on Fire Island when they first got there, but he's stronger for some reason, and Greymon's having a really tough time fighting him. And what's weird is that there are fucking holes in the sky. Literally there are giant fucking digital holes in the sky, and while Greymon and Kawagamon start fighting, they get pulled through and into this sort of it's kind of like the upper stratosphere of the digital world from Tamers, right before they get to the real world. I'm not really sure what it is, but they sort of jump around to a bunch of different places. And one thing that's actually kind of odd is that the fight between Greymon and Kawagamon begins in the, I'm gonna say, late afternoon. They go through a couple of these weird tears or openings, and then they end up in an airport, and it's pitch fucking dark, like way fucking dark, and Tai is still at where Greymon and Kawagamon started fighting, and he's just crawling out for Greymon, and I'm just thinking, how the fuck long has Tai been there? Like maybe he has just been standing there waiting for Greymon to come back and say, okay, I killed Kawagamon, let's go home. And Kari calls him and tells him that Greymon and Kawagamon are at this airport, and there is this moment of hesitation when Tai is Tai is talking to her, that he starts to say, try and find me, or try and find a way to the to the hotel, but then he stops and just sort of thinks, okay, a bunch of innocent people died. I can't let my sister get into this shit without Gatomon. So he tries to figure out a way to get to the hotel airport, and then his teacher shows the fuck up just out of nowhere and takes him to the flight, and then a bunch of other Men in Black type dudes show up and gather up the other Digidestin, and all of their Digimon just show up out of fucking nowhere. The only ones that don't get picked up immediately are Joe and Mimi. Mimi does eventually get picked up because she does come back to Japan to watch Thai's soccer game. She crossed the entire fucking country, the entire fucking Pacific Ocean, just to watch Thai's soccer game. Yeah, that girl really did deserve the crest of sincerity, didn't she? But she shows up in the middle at night again, at fucking night, which means she clearly missed the fucking soccer game. Like, I don't know what the fuck she was thinking, but this other chick that we actually do see in an earlier scene in the first episode, who's kind of looking at this computer screen with a bunch of I don't fucking know, like warning beacons or whatever, is talking to someone, and I think she knows about the Digimon and has been tracking Digimon's emergence into the real world or something like that. So she picks up Mimi, takes her to the airport with the others, and while Greymon is fighting Kawagamon, he gets hurt and digivolves back into Agumon. Just as the other Digidestin show up with their Digimon, and then 2 more Kawagamon show up out of fucking nowhere, and so all the Digimon digivolve and they kick all their asses. Garurumon gets his ass kicked too by the same Kawagamon that was fighting Greymon, and like right before something bad can happen, a giant hand comes out of one of the same holes that the other 2 Kawagamon came out of, crushes the Kawagamon, and pulls him back in. Like, what the fuck? And I will say this, I'm intrigued. I want to know more. This isn't gonna be an episode by episode review type thing. I'm probably gonna wait until the entire series ends before I really go into it deeply or anything like that. Before I really go into depth about talking about the whole thing, and I do want to watch the rest of the series, and I do want to talk about it, so you can expect that when the series does eventually end. The individual Digidestin, I actually kind of like the way they are. I'm pretty sure the second generation from 02 are fucking dead. I don't know where that's going. They never really mentioned those 4 leading up to Tri, so I'm really not sure what role they're gonna play in all this. But everyone else, I think is in an interesting place. I mentioned Matt and his band and everything he's going through, and Mimi being in America, being in New York specifically, and just hopping on a plane and going back to Japan just to see her friend's soccer game. Like, I admit I never really liked Mimi all that much, but like just that one act made me like her so much more than I ever had before. Um, Sora, I think, is in an interesting place because I do think she is still dating Matt, but she also still wants to stay friends with Ty. So, and he kind of and Ty uh, texts Sora about his soccer game being around the same time as Matt's concert, and that's why Matt can't go, and why Sora can't go, and why TK can't go because he's actually bringing his new girlfriend. Yeah, TK isn't dating Kari, which is bullshit. But Kari had to, I think, go to a friend's birthday party or something like that, and Izzy had to go to his parents' wedding anniversary, and I think I mentioned Joe's studying. He had to study really hard, and that's why everyone couldn't come to this soccer game. Sora is genuine. Sora wants to go to both. I think that's really interesting, and I think it does. It is a good part of her character because I think that is something that Sora would sort of wrestle with, wanting to support her boyfriend, but also wanting to support the guy who she still obviously really cares about. Probably not as much as he used to, or not as much as he still does care about her, but like you can tell that Sora is sort of wrestling with this whole thing. And Joe, I actually kind of feel genuinely sorry for because it's revealed that he's not the bottom of his class, but he is kind of struggling, and I actually don't think he's in college just yet, but I think he's in sort of a cram school, class to prepare him for college or something like that. I don't know, or maybe he is in college. I don't fucking know. But 30 minutes. And TK is, you don't really actually know that much about. You don't actually get that much from TK or Kari. Kari's always been one of my favorite characters in the show. If only because she seems the most unusual. She is sort of a Mary Sue, kinda. Like, I can't really deny that, but probably one of the things I was most disappointed about 02 is the episode 13 of 02. Not because it was bad, but because episode 13 of 02 was also written by Chiaki J. Konaka. I think that's how he got into writing Digimon before he was given Tamers to be the showrunner. And it's heavily influenced by it features a Digimon called Dagomon, which is an obvious reference to Dagon, which is one of the old ones, because little known fact, Konaka actually contributed to the Cthulhu mythos, and you can really you can kind of tell he had that influence in this particular episode, and especially in Tamers. But episode 13 is hands down my favorite episode of Digimon as a whole. It's such a good episode, and they did nothing with it. Adventure sort of established that Kairi had these unique abilities, and she sort of connected with this digital deity of some sort, and that's how they had that whole huge exposition dump about where their personal Digimon came from, and the tag and the crest and the Digivices and all that shit. And episode 13 kind of picked that up and started to run with it, and Kairi is always sort of this digital messiah figure. That's how I always saw her, because she had this unique ability as the bearer of the crest of light, and I always thought it was so interesting what they were doing with her, especially in that one episode, and they just did nothing with it. Like, that's one thing I'm really hoping they sort of fix with Try. They actually go back to the idea of Kyrie being this special being, this messiah figure, this whatever. Like just bring something of that back to her, and we kind of get the idea of Kyrie. She is still the nice girl, always cares about everyone else, kind of has this part of the reason why I am I am hoping and still do have hope that they'll at least address the whole digital messiah thing, is that you can kind of tell that Kyrie has a sense about things. Like she notices the Kawagamon flying around but doesn't really get a good look at it. She notices news report when she's having dinner with her family that weird things are going on, and she tries to bring Ty's attention to it, but he's still kind of caught up in his own shit, and she derails from it a little bit to help him out, but that's pretty much all you really get with Kyrie. You don't really get much with her. You don't get much with TK either, I don't know. Well, he gets some shit, but not much. It really isn't substantial. Not as much as the older kid, which I get, but it's also kind of annoying because TK and Kyrie were on the front lines of the 02 saga, and they don't get much development here, and I thought that was kind of fucked up. But yeah, that's I am really shit. I am really looking forward to seeing more of Try. This is so damn good. Damn, 42 minutes.